right, looks like we have almost everyone. Nick, would you like to share where you got cut off from our last talk, if you remember?
I appreciate the encouragement. Really, in brief, I think the immediate response to Chris's question is engagement with development, is on the whole a positive thing. That sort of passive, kind of surveillance on the trailways is good. I mean, that's a good thing to have. Where there's, I think, sort of follow on that is just in the sort of a greater conversation around, I mean, how do you engage with developers or development, residential, commercial, et cetera? I was trying to recall, and while like commenting at the same time, whether we as a property have been engaged, I suppose, by the city, in relationship, to the Greenway. And I honestly, I can't, at least not from a management standpoint, I don't recall in the last 3 years where we've been approached or where there's been some sort of direct outreach from the city, again, with relation to the Greenway. Now, that said, the flip side to that is, it's like, I guess as a matter of full disclosure, on my end, I have a background, a separate relationship with the Greenway, like as an individual, and of course now, just as a manager of this property. And so I've had nothing but every interest from well before we even opened to make sure that we promote the active use of the Greenway. I think the Greenway, and this was like one of the slides that was shared earlier in this meeting. The Greenway is a community asset and amenity. And I think people should take great pride and joy in acknowledging that it's a privilege to have it, and so we should maintain it. And I think as a property, given the volume of foot traffic that we have with our neighbors, and visitors to the city, I think that to me, it's a right and a responsibility to promote its use and its maintenance. And so, right now I've got emails going back and forth with a Taekwondo class that wants to host, a little practice session out there, on the Greenway, and I'm all about it, But anyways, so I guess the immediate response is to Chris's question. Yeah, I think engagement with developers and development is appropriate, but it's one thing to say yes to that, but then my sort of follow-up question is, what does that look like? I mean, what exactly, what do you envision that feeling like, looking like? How is it going to be implemented? Because, it's one thing to say it, but then how are you planning to go about doing it? That's my question. So, thank you.
Yeah, those are really important thoughts. I mean, it's trying to integrate what the department's doing with, the citywide initiatives too, and making sure that for all planning efforts that this is happening. That's, important and a challenge for sure. I am going to share my screen and we're going to jump into an entirely different conversation. I apologize for the abruptness, but I really appreciate everyone's thoughts about the trail classifications. And this is something that you'll be able to provide some continued input on as we keep going throughout this process. So we're going to look in a little more detail at those maps that Jared just presented with the kind of proposed trails. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my whole screen. All right, can you see this small map? It's probably small to you.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to look at these in thirds. So it's a little more zoomed in. I'm going to hide this down here. So again, like Jared said, this is just first impressions, what you think of off the top of your head. And we're going to send out a survey that you can really take a deep dive into each of these proposed trails. I just want to highlight there's a lot of things going on up here in this legend, so I'm going to walk through them really quick. Anything that's outlined in this kind of light orange color is on a stream corridor. If it's not outlined in that, it's either a street corridor or a utility easement. So just to think about that in terms of open space and, you know, the characteristics of the trail. These dark green lines that, you know, don't have any dashes in them, those are the existing trail network. The green lines that are also dark with the white dashes, those are trails that were proposed prior to the beginning of this planning process. So they've kind of been in the docket in the Parks and Rec Department's Greenway program for a number of years, depending on which trail it is. The purple lines are the ones that we have added based off of that prioritization process that Jared went through. And then you can see some here, these kind of more 70s orange, I guess, is where we're proposing removals of trails that were previously planned, but we don't, I think, see a feasibility or a purpose for them now. And some of those removals have a proposed reroute, which is in this kind of yellow color. So this is like a snapshot of the northern edge of the city. And I guess I'm just wondering, what are your initial thoughts about this? I know that you can't see everything. Over here's Umstead. I'm trying to see if there are other kind of key destinations, but anyone shout out what you're thinking. I can't see you, so go for it.
I mean, the initial just look at it is it's like kind of all encompassing. It feels like it covers a lot of ground and territory as far as if you talk about destination and connecting areas of the city, at least from that northern half I'm looking at right now, compared to what it currently is.
Ashley, I would say that it looks like there is a gap in east-west connectivity. If you look at like the Spring Forest Road new proposed trail that's on a street corridor, it just sort of ends at Falls of News Road, but from this perspective doesn't look like it's terribly far from, I think that's Hare Snipe, maybe? No, not Hare Snipe, Mine Creek. It's probably Mine Creek Trail. And then over to Hare Snipe and then over to Crabtree Creek, I guess. But I know that like if this system was actually implemented, that's probably what we would be hearing, is that people want to be able to do that east-west.
That's a great thought, because I'm just going to go back down to the center. This is kind of more of your downtown and like within 440. Yeah, because Crabtree is down here. Can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that is quite a distance between having an east-west route. That's a great point, Chris.
Ashley, just to clarify, this essentially is the product of some of the stuff that was presented at the beginning of the meeting in terms of looking at all of the different criteria that are put in there, from equity to transportation, to overlaying that, and then this is the outcome of that sort of analysis, base criteria.
Yes, the purple lines are the result of that. These, the dark green lines with the white dashes were things that had already been proposed, and I think may have gone through a series of other processes, but we continued them onto this process because they're what the department is looking at right now. And so the purple ones are to kind of add to that. How do we build off of what is already being planned for? And that used that process with the equity, transportation, and all the other criteria. So any immediate reactions to kind of this segment of the city? And I will note that right here, you can't see it. This is kind of on New Bern Avenue near Pool Road. There is a proposed multi-use path that is not to my knowledge, part of the Greenway system, but it's kind of being planned to be implemented along with the BRT corridor there.
What about the piece that's sort of just south,
This
I
one?
guess, where your cursor just was? That sort of stops before it hits the Crabtree Creek.
This one?
Right there, yeah, there's like a little, is that,
There's a little gap there. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is. You can take a look at that for sure.
It's probably not intentional, I'd imagine.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the southern part of Raleigh, and then we can move in between these or look at it as a whole, whatever is most helpful for you. So this is the southern edge. Anything pop out?
What are those little islands down to the southeast?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I mean, what are those? What's the purpose of those little?
Yeah. So we're proposing that these are removed from the city's plans. They were in the GIS files that we got from the city, and we're not really sure what some of the purpose of them was. That's why we've proposed to remove them. Yeah, unless, someone's like, we really need this crossing, perhaps, because most of them are street crossings.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it did.
Cool.
That dark gray line that goes east-west, is that the current corporate limit, or is that the ETJ?
This line here.
Yeah.
Chris, I believe this is the city limit.
I would have to, honestly, I'd have to look that up, but I think it is a city limit.
Yeah.
Are there considerations for planning within the current ETJ, or are you just looking at within city limits?
I think that some of these that are extended outside have are kind of looking at that. One thing that we really paid attention to is how the trails connect with regional municipalities. This is Cary's trail system over here. Up in previous ones, we have, I believe this is Nightdale's. So trying to see how those touch each other has been really important.
Yeah, and you can see a segment there on the top right that extends outside of the corporate limits as well.
That's a great question, though.
I think that segment on the far south is in Swift Creek, if I'm
In this
looking
image?
at it. Yeah, I think that's Wake County's planned trail. I think we're calling that the trail between the lakes or something like that.
That's great to know. What are folks' thoughts on how these contribute to the transportation network or adding more open space to the city? And let me know if you'd like to continue seeing them zoomed in these segments, or if you want to kind of look at big picture map.
I'd kind of like to look at the big picture if everyone else is okay with that.
Yeah.
Oh, 56 seconds left.
Last minute, share your final thoughts. You can always share them with us later too, but
I think it looks like a just looking at the whole, it looks like a very good connected network. I think it's very ambitious.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I think that's a good thing.
Any other thoughts? All right, well, we will be sending out a survey where you're going to be able to provide paragraphs or just bullet points, whatever you decide. And you can dive into it as much as you want.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah,
Ran out of time again.
always. Never fails. Okay. Let's see here.
Hey, Jared,
Yeah.
are you in a padded cell, buddy?
He's been asked that a few times today.
Oh gosh,
Okay.
I'm in the recording
No,
studio.
it looks like you have a recording studio or a padded cell.
That's
I like
right.
it.
I'm in the recording studio. No, I'm just a phone booth with carpet walls. Call it what you want. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you everyone for taking some time in the smaller groups. I think that, obviously I don't know what was said in all of them. I was excited to hear what we were talking about. Can everybody hear me still? Yes. Am I frozen?